National trial attorney Mike Jaafar is with us. All right, great to see everyone. Thank you for being here. Is anyone bothered by two prosecution witnesses who were spending all this time together prior to telling their stories? We're talking about Jennifer McCabe and Karen Roberts, and all of a sudden we're finding out that Karen Roberts is saying things to the grand jury that weren't true. She said she heard, I mean, this is a big point, too.
If this case was in Ohio, this would not be an issue. The problem for Hank Brennan, and this is what keeps him up at night, is that a stealth juror will look at this and say, oh, that's it, that's a cover. At the end of the day, I think Hank Brennan knows he can't prove, it's not enough for him to prove his case beyond a reasonable doubt. He's got to prove it beyond a delusional doubt. He knows that there's a stealth juror in there. He needs to prove this beyond any delusion. And so there's going to be a stealth juror. Look at her. They were friends. Of course they were friends.
No, but they weren't friends until John O'Keefe died. Right.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here.
On days when I'm late to pick up my kids from the bus stop, I make inconsistent statements to my wife 5 days a week. I can't keep my story, and that's within a week. This has been like 2 years. These people are like under a siege mentality. So at the end of the day, it makes sense that she would be inconsistent a little bit. I'm inconsistent on
it was on a big issue, though. All right, Think Tank staying with us. When we come back, did Karen Read show the broken taillight to Jennifer McCabe and Karen Roberts? That's another thing that she testified in front of the grand jury about. We'll take a look at that. All right, that was more false grand jury testimony, Michael.
Yeah.
And how problematic is this? And by the way, the moment that she's describing just happens to be the moment that's not captured on video. I don't know where that video went.
I'm going to be excoriated online for saying this. I just think this is a fugazi. I don't think it's anything. I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, the broken taillight showed up somewhere. Where? Around John O'Keefe's body, in his clothing, right? So at the end of the day, that's where the taillight ended up. In terms of her testimony, it makes sense that there would be some inconsistency. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. All of them were drunk, except for Karen Roberts. And so, to me, it kind of fits. I think the jury's going to find that they choreographed their testimony. It seems pretty clear to me.
Okay, so then what happens? What's the result of that? Does the jury say, you're choreographing testimony? Why should we believe
Then they
you?
don't meet the beyond a delusional doubt standard that I have for this case. That's my standard for this case. Hank Brennan has to prove his case beyond a delusional doubt. Beyond a reasonable doubt isn't going to. If this was in Ohio, New Jersey, Texas, she'd be convicted. But this like there's a mass delusion in Dedham, Massachusetts about this case. They're fully convinced that maybe, I don't know, Santa Claus brought the broken taillight.
But the delusion, there's no delusion that the testimony is false.
That's correct.
What are the odds of two people
But you got to keep
getting
wait for the rest of the trial.
wrong?
Wait for the rest of the trial.
Let me say something. When you look at the two opening statements, here's how I read the two opening statements. Hank Brennan got up there and said, I'm going to prove to you that the world is round, and you're going to, if you believe it's round, you're going to find that Karen Read killed him. Alan Jackson got up there and says, I'm going to prove to you that the earth is flat, and it's flat because Michael Proctor's a bad guy. That's their whole entire case.
That's not true. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
You got Michael Proctor, but now you have two more witnesses that
are So if he keeps going, we're going to have another hung jury.
All right, stay where you are. This is what we're going to do. When we come back, we are going to take a look at that broken taillight. We're going to put it back together.
Yes.
So many things get lost. Listen, I know her attorneys, by the way, told her not to talk. The fact that she was doing these interviews means she is so narcissistic, she had to have her story
out. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. There's no way Alan Jackson would have let her do it.
Yeah.
Can we take a look at that Sally Port picture? I see it's queued up. Let's take a look at that. Can we take a look at that Sally Port picture if we have it? Because this is the picture. Again, this is what Karen Read. There's that's it put together. How about the picture of it now in the Sally Port? Oh, there's this close. That's a good close-up of the missing piece.
Dun, dun,
the missing sliver. And it's important. You can say it's not important, but is that what you saw pulling out of the driveway?
No.
For sure.
All right.
That's my vote.
I think she hit him.
She definitely hit him. Whether she meant to do it or not is another story.
Okay, if that's not what the car looked like, pulling out of the driveway, how did all those pieces end up not on her right tail light?
Well, that's the $64,000 question and why we're in trial.
The $64,000 answer from the defense is that Trooper Michael Proctor was behind there. You see him in the video.
All we need to do is reasonable doubt as defense attorneys, and there's lots of it here.
Vinny, it's more believable that Bigfoot killed him than Michael Proctor broke that taillight, in my opinion.
All right, now I'm showing you a split of what a taillight looks like when it's totally intact. That's on the left, and what they say it looked like in the driveway that day on the right.
Different taillight, different side of the car, different angle, different camera angle, different lighting.
I get it.
Yes.
But is there any way that the one on the right and the left would look the same in a video if they were like this, pulling away?
If
the car is pulling away, like we see it in the video.
If it was pulling away with all that white showing, it would have had a different light. It would have been more white, in my humble opinion.
But it's not. So who pulled the piece? Why did the pieces?
But that's what kills her case, though. Is her own daggone mouth.
No. Why does that kill her case?
They gave her enough rope to hang herself.
She doesn't know when to be quiet. She doesn't know how to speak.
She is
so nervous.
How did the rest of the red pieces get detached from the right tail
I don't think the
light?
prosecution needs to worry about that. If they play
I think they need a lot of worrying about
of her talking, that's what's going to sink her ship.
What a great job. Michael Jaafar making the trip in.
Yes.
Great to see you.
Thanks, guys.
Meg Strickler, Darrell Cohen, thank you so much. All right.